Bitcoin just smashed through its previous all-time high of $109,326 to a new all-time high of $109,500. Only about $175 movement so far, but that's likely not done. By the end of this video, you're going to understand the reason that $110,000 is not the end for where Bitcoin's going. $120,000 is not the stopping point. $140,000 to $160,000 before the end of the summer is much more likely, and you're going to understand why U.S. bonds are the single most important variable in the hegemony of Bitcoin that is to come. I'm going to explain to you exactly why the global economy is going to collapse in on itself in the next 20 years, and why only those that invest in Bitcoin will make it through. My name is Jeb McAfee. I've been working in the cryptocurrency space for almost a decade. I've been acquiring Bitcoin for almost a decade. I've watched personally Bitcoin 38x from where I got into the space at $2,900 in July of 2017. And it's been my mission since the very beginning to teach you guys how to board the ark, because Bitcoin is the ark that is going to allow us to weather the Fiat collapse storm that is on the horizon. Short term first, then long term. In the short term charts, we watched Bitcoin break well above $103,000 a little over a week ago. We started pressing up towards 105, then it was 106, then it was 107. It was very obvious that the bullish momentum is mounting. Ever since we bottomed out around $75,000, smart money has been buying hand over foot, including major companies and including states. We now have 2 different states, Arizona and New Hampshire, and soon to be Texas, that have passed strategic Bitcoin reserve legislation, which allows for them to, in one way or another, acquire Bitcoin directly at the state level for a strategic Bitcoin reserve. We also have a number of companies such as Metaplanet, 21, Strategy, and many more that are acquiring Bitcoin hand over foot at the expense of the retail. The retail has been selling because they bought it 30, 40, 50, 60, and they took their profit, they got their 2x, and they think they're good, but the issue is now they're holding that money in dollars, or they're consuming it and it's gone, and they're going to miss the boat. Bitcoin is the boat. You miss the boat, you drown. Okay, so why do U.S. bonds matter so much? Because this is what I really want to talk about. Bitcoin hitting 109, whatever. We're going to go to 140 very soon. Watch. Why does this matter? U.S. bonds are about to hit 4.5%. Japanese bonds over the last 12 months have rallied from 2% to 3.6% last night. This is very significant because what a bond is basically a central government borrowing money from whoever will buy the bond, whether it's you or a company. Generally speaking, bonds are considered to be zero risk investments. They are safe. They generate a low return, but they generate a return. So if you want to make $400,000 a year, you buy $10 million worth of bonds, it's safe, you're good, you have a fixed income for life, because people consider treasury bonds to be no risk. The issue is these bonds are then used, the capital that's raised through them are used to finance government deficit spending, which means that the economy in question, the government in question, in this case the Japanese and the US governments, have to issue more bonds and have to go into more debt and more debt and more debt. And every time you run a $2 trillion a year deficit, you raise the debt by $2 trillion, because the money has to come from somewhere. It can come from one of 2 places. It can come from the issuing of bonds at the Treasury Department, where somebody has to buy them. There's only so many buyers in the world. Somebody has to buy them to finance deficit spending. And if you can't find enough buyers, then you have to raise the interest rate, which means the debt just got more expensive. If you still can't find buyers, then you have to print money at the Federal Reserve level, because the U.S. government has control over the United States dollar. Both of these efforts are inflationary. One of them leads to the downfall of the budget, where right now, almost 20% of all tax revenues go straight to interest payment on the $36 trillion of debt that we hold in the United States. That number is more like 30% in Japan. And if you don't do that, then you have to print money at the Federal Reserve level. You have to turn the QE on and turn the money printer on, because you simply can't find money anywhere else to finance deficit spending. Governments are not very good at cutting spending. Doge has come in and has made some big strides, but it's not big enough, it's not good enough, and we're probably still going to see a deficit throughout the Trump presidency. I hope that's not the case, but if it is, then there's virtually no chance, because I don't know of another person that could possibly run for political office that would have the same amount of political clout as Trump has, that has a shot of lowering the deficit. It's a bipartisan issue. Both parties have massively increased the deficit, because to get elected, you more or less have to make promises that you can't keep. And so if you're going to keep your promise over the next 2 years, you have to make it impossible to keep your promises 20 years from now, which is why a lot of times politicians get stuff done in the first year, and then they get nothing done for 20 years, but everybody already elected them, and they have the incumbent advantage, and they stay in office forever, and they keep making short-term, short-sighted, stupid decisions. And now we're here, where the average age to purchase your first home in the United States is no longer 31 like it was in 1981. Now it's 51 to 56. And instead of putting 20% down, people are now putting 3 and 5% down. They're in more debt. They have less property. They're, statistically speaking, far poorer than they were 20 to 30 years ago because of these stupid decisions. The collapse of the United States dollar is on the horizon, and as we see bond rates approach 5%, 6%, 7% over the course of the next decade in the United States, as you see them approach 5, 6, 7% in Japan, the cost of that debt is going to skyrocket, which is going to increase the debt more rapidly, which is going to snowball the debt in the wrong direction, and eventually the only way to finance government spending, because you're spending all of the tax revenue on paying the interest on the debt, is through printing. At that point in time, you have a hyperinflationary event, and the currency ceases to function. The entire economy seizes, and the United States government, the Japanese government, and any other government that this happens to, which is virtually 90+% of them, pretty much any one of them that has their own currency. Some countries don't, but any country that has its own currency is going to have the same thing happen. There's one notable exception, and that'd be the Swiss. They don't use a lot of deficit spending. They've only got a 34% debt to GDP ratio. U.S. is at like about 106%. Japan's at 263%. Pretty much every single other currency except for the Swiss franc is probably going to seize within the next 20 to 25 years, which means now the people that are in the armed forces aren't getting paid, which means now there's no new orders for new aircraft carriers, which means there's now no Medicare, there's no Medicaid, there's no Social Security, or it gets cut by 50% in a year, because otherwise it doesn't exist at all. That future is coming. And you might think, Jeb, you're just being doomsday, that's never going to happen. If you're a Christian, you'll understand something, and that is that you can't outrun foolishness. You cannot outrun stupid. It is stupid to spend more money than you bring in. The path to hell feels like heaven. The path to heaven feels like hell. You must not spend more than you bring in forever. You can do it for a little while. Let's say there's a war going on. All right, you can do it for a little while. Let's say some travesties just happened. You can do it for a little while. You can't do it forever. You're digging yourself a hole, and you got to dig your way out of it. Governments are not God, even though they think that they are. The collapse of anyone who spends more money than they bring in, if they keep doing it forever and don't repent, is guaranteed. It is not up for debate. You follow the laws of money, or you lose your money. One of them is avoid debt. Not never go into debt. I'd rather you borrow $20 so you can buy a Bible and learn about Jesus and pay the $20 back another time. Not never go into debt, but generally speaking, avoid it. It's not sin. Most of the time, 90+% of the time, it's foolishness. What the United States government is doing is foolishness. And the end result of foolishness is the prosperity of the fool destroying them. But whoso hearkeneth unto me, not me, but wisdom, shall dwell safely without fear. So what does this mean for short-term price? We're about to break all-time high. 109,000 will probably most likely capitulate soon. If not, maybe we drop back down to 105, 103, 94, whatever. Who gives a crap? Buy more. We're going to $1 million. Bitcoin just passed Google and Amazon to become the 5th largest asset in the world, behind Apple, Nvidia, gold, and I'm forgetting one. Probably Saudi Aramco. There's another company up there, but anyway. The fact that the fact that Bitcoin is still being priced in the same class as equities, and not what it actually is, which is its own asset class and not in competition with gold, is telling. The world's largest company is worth $3.5 trillion. I want to say it's Nvidia. Anyway, the world's largest company right now is worth about $3.5 to $3.6 trillion. Bitcoin is not an equity. It is more valuable than any equity by a country mile. $3.6 trillion in market capitalization is coming before you know it, probably before the end of this cycle. Bitcoin, before the end of this cycle, will likely be worth more than any other equity, not any other equity, but than any equity on planet Earth, which would put its value at $175,000, and it would put it in direct competition with gold, which is the league that it belongs in. Bitcoin is not in the minor leagues anymore. It will be larger than any company on the planet within 24 months, probably sooner than that. That's a 2x from where we are. Because of the flight of $300 trillion away from bonds, you're going to see gold grow from $23 trillion in the next 10 years, probably to $80 trillion by 2035. Gold will approach $10,000 an ounce if all of the money doesn't run from gold into Bitcoin. If not for Bitcoin, gold would hit $80 to $100 trillion within a decade, within 10 years. If Bitcoin is 20%, 25%, of an $80 trillion gold, which is basically priced in because bonds are no longer the safe haven that people think they are. If Bitcoin was 25% of $80 trillion, it would be a $20 trillion asset. With the amount of Bitcoin that's already been lost Bitcoin that's been sent and deleted into Satoshi Nakamoto's wallet of 1.1 million, and to Saylor's wallet, which is never going, and MicroStrategy's wallet, which is never going to be sold. Bitcoin would be trading at about $1.4 million because the circulating supply of Bitcoin in 2035 will not be 20 million. There's probably 4 million out of circulation. So you actually are calculating the market cap off of 16 million Bitcoin or so. A $20 trillion Bitcoin at that point is looking at about $1.4 million by 2035. You either get on the boat, you get on the ark, and you weather the storm of what the collapse of fiat currency is bringing, or you don't and you drown. Everyone in the day of Noah that was not on the ark died. The Bible says that all living flesh on the earth died. And similarly, any financial asset that you hold that is not Bitcoin, that is not gold, that is not something with a very finite supply or a very difficult to move supply is going to go to zero. Real estate's going to do okay, not great. It's going to do all right because it is technically finite, but you can always go bulldoze a forest to get more of it. It is finite, but not as finite as Bitcoin. Gold is finite, but not as finite as Bitcoin. It's got 2 to 3% inflation a year baked into it because of the extra mining going on. Bitcoin is the hardest asset known to man. When $300 trillion realizes that they want a safe, zero-risk investment, and their only options are real estate, gold, and Bitcoin, let's say conservatively you get 20% of the bond market, that's $60 trillion, that's a $3.5 million Bitcoin. I've watched a 36x happen on Bitcoin in my lifetime in the last 7.5 years. In the next 15 years, we're going to see it again. By 2040, Bitcoin will be trading between $3 and $5 million. By 2035, it'll be trading at $1 million, and your dollar will probably have lost at least 50% of its value in the next 10 years, probably more like 60 to 70% of its value in the next 10 years. So you choose. Are you a Bitcoiner, or are you getting left behind? 109.5 is just the beginning. $109,000 is still very cheap compared to where we will be in 10 years. Maybe not compared to future bear market bottoms. Maybe we bear market bottom at 100 to 109. Okay, cool. Maybe we do see this level again. Maybe so. Maybe we drop down to 84 or 85. Maybe we drop down to 100 in the bear market. I don't care. I'll buy more. But this is a great entry for where we will be 10 years from now. Maybe not 2 years from now. Maybe this is just, you're not going to make anything in the next 2 years. Maybe bear market bottom's here. Okay, cool. Maybe bear market's bottom 73.8. Cool. Compared to where we will be in 10 years, 109 is a drop in the bucket. You can still get half a Bitcoin for $54,000. Wow. That's really impressive. And I love that. We are stacking sats as fast as we possibly can because I am realizing that our money is safer in Bitcoin than it is in a savings account, even if it's high yield generating 4.5% interest. So prepare accordingly. If you're coming to Bitcoin 2025, I look forward to meeting you there. Make sure to let me know. Follow us on Twitter. The link will be in the description box down below. I'll be putting a bunch of posts, updates over there, trying to do some kind of community meetup there. Looking forward to seeing you guys in Vegas at the Venetian. If you've not already, make sure to subscribe to the channel. I want to teach you how to board the ARK. And the way you do that is by living on less than you make and buying Bitcoin. If you have not already, make sure to sign up for Lux Algo. It's the best technical indicator package in the entire world. I have used it for over half a decade. I love it. It's amazing. If you're a technical analyst like me, then you should absolutely sign up for it. It was in part because of Lux Algo signals that I bought an enormous amount of Bitcoin at 73,000, 74,000, 77,000, 84,000, 93,000, 92,000, 104,000, 103,000. The reason that I've been buying so much Bitcoin over the last 60 days is because of my understanding of technical analysis, my understanding of the markets, my understanding of where we're going, and Lux Algo has helped me a lot with that. So credit to Lux Algo where it's deserved. Make sure to sign up with the link down below. If you enjoyed today's video, like the video, subscribe for more content, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.